Welcome to Trek Zone Live. Matt Miller with you. We're live, funnily enough, by the name of the live stream. It's another Saturday. This is, I think, our third Talkin Science Uncut. We're producing it live for something a little different, for a fifth day of podcasting to beat those Corona blues. If it was a little later in the day, I might have a Corona with me. Nice wedge of lime or lemon in there. But it is 8 o'clock in the morning here in Australia. It's time to talk science. This week, a nearby black hole, Tom Cruise gears up for a space movie, and China's launch of their new Long March 5B rocket. It's Saturday, May 16, 2020. I was almost going to say April, but it is May 16, 2020. Day 50 plus of lockdown as Australia begins to ease those lockdown restrictions from today. It's very exciting. Finally, we're almost over the hump, almost 2 months in. Let's talk some science.
Across Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts and YouTube, this is Talking Science with Dr. Brad Tucker and Matt Miller.
A very happy quarantine Tuesday to you, Dr. Brad.
Yes, how's it going?
Really good, my friend, really good. How are you down in the nation's capital?
It was a balmy -3 overnight.
It was a chilly 6 up here.
Oh, wow.
Heatwave.
As I say, you had to turn the dial to the red area of the temperature gauge, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I tried to take Ahsoka for a walk this morning. She wasn't having a bar of it. So I don't know how she's going to go if I chuck her in the car and bring her down to see you.
Yeah, look, I don't think she would cope too well, to be honest. It's we're only at the beginning, as they say.
Oh, chilly. And as I said in the intro, day 51 of lockdown. It's starting to come to a sort of end this weekend here in Australia. Hopefully we're not rushing into this and causing a second wave.
Hopefully it's incremental steps, right? You know, that's kind of what you want, baby steps to evolve. Hopefully it works out like that.
Absolutely. Well, you can find Dr. Brad on his socials, Facebook, Dr. Brad Tucker, Twitter at BTucker22. You can find Trek Zone all over social media. Just search for Trek Zone. Brad, let's dive into the headlines.
Talking Science Headlines.
And first up in our headlines, the head of human spaceflight, I believe it is, at Roscosmos has passed away.
Yeah, he's been head for quite a few years, and he actually caught COVID-19, and it was announced shortly after the last flight to the space station a couple weeks ago that we talked about that he actually had COVID-19. During that, they were never worried because of the natural safety protocols they took, but it ultimately proved fatal. So, you know, it's definitely a far-reaching issue, no matter where on Earth or near space you may be.
Yeah, well, speaking of near space, the Light Sail project, Bill Nye the Science Guy's project, has sent back, or it's been in orbit for 10 months now, and it's sent back in celebration. They've released 10 images to celebrate those 10 months.
That's right, yeah, one for each month. And, you know, it's quite nice. You get to see, a nice view of the Earth and the sail. It's only expected to last, the whole project, I think, about a year. But it's, so far been successful. One of the whole goals was to test longevity in operation and those sorts of things. And so far proving to be successful. So, hopefully they have a good rest of the mission.
And one last one that I wanted to mention is SpaceX. Their Starship 4 had a successful static fire test. We talked about it a few weeks ago with Starship 3, I think it was, that failed the static fire or the pressurization test. They've had a successful one, and they're looking even further ahead now with Starship 5.
Yeah, that's right. They had a number of their previous tests where quite literally blew up. And look, fairly impressive fashion, to be honest.
They don't do things by half.
Yeah, that's right. So they luckily got one finally right, and as you said, and look, that's why you do testing. That's why it takes a long time. That's why they call it rocket science. It takes time. So it's good that finally they got over that hump, and as you said, yeah, looking towards the next steps.
Project Light Sail doing some amazing work. Those pictures reflecting over the last 10 months of the project. looks absolutely fantastic. Incredible images. Congratulations to all the team. And of course, SpaceX's Starship 5 is gearing up to take off. Starship 4, as we discussed there, is going to be hopefully doing a low altitude test launch very, very soon, which will be very, very exciting. Well, let's dive into the stories of the week. As I say, this is Talkin Science Uncut. If you want to support Trek Zone, I'm hoping to build a brand new website. Only the third one this decade. Well, it's a new decade, so it'll be the first one of the decade, and hopefully it'll stick around or it'll last us for a few years. The amount of money that we're going to be spending on it. So it'd be really grateful. I'd be really grateful if you had any spare cash to donate my way. PayPal.me/Spiral Media. Or the YouTube Super Chats, or the Periscope's Super Hearts. Be really, really fantastic. 100% of those profits, 100% of those donations even, going straight to the website development fund. Alrighty, well, let's kick off the stories of the week. Dr. Brad and I were discussing the stellar mass black hole, which has been discovered about 1,000 light years away from Earth.
Talking Science, stories of the week.
And our first story of the week, Brad, is all about a black hole pretty close to Earth by astronomical standards. It is 1,000, I was going to say 1,000 kilometres away, but we'd be in serious trouble if that was the case.
Yeah, look, 1,000 kilometers would be a bit of that would be close, let me tell you. Look, I know it would feel like it'd be on par for 2020 to all of a sudden have a black hole only 1,000 kilometers away, but it's not that bad yet.
It is 1,000 light years, of course, which is in the galactic neighborhood, really, isn't it?
It is. Look, the Milky Way is 100,000 light years across. So, it's relatively nearby. It's 1% close, in the 1% area of our neighborhood or our solar neighborhood compared to the rest of them. And more importantly, it's been found that one exists that close, but also just the size of it. It is a small, what we call a stellar mass black hole. And, the light is now just being really shed on these stellar mass black holes. And to be able to directly not only find one nearby, but also the way it was found not necessarily by gravitational waves or some of the events that it did. It was actually found to just exist because of the orbits of the other stars. So a pretty important discovery, not only what was discovered, but how it was detected as well.
And you say stellar mass black hole, basically that means that it's formed from the collapse of a star.
Yeah, so when a big star, at the very minimum, 8 solar masses, 8 times the mass of our sun, but we expect more to be on the order of 10 to 30 to 50 times the mass of our sun. When those stars explode, they explode because the core collapses, as we say, and that's what actually forms the black hole and actually helps create the star explode. So the fact that it's 4 times the mass of our sun, we know it was on the smaller end of stars that die and explode and create us. And only usually when we found the stellar mass black holes has been through gravitational waves, not direct detections like this.
So is it because it's so close that we've been able to do a direct observation?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We think that there's potentially millions of black holes in our Milky Way, a bunch of them that are small. But in order to find something like this, it has to be relatively close. The way it was detected was actually seeing the stars in the system. So there's 3 stars, seeing the other 2 actually just orbit around it. So by measuring the orbits of 2 other stars, seeing that they're orbiting something central, essentially, and you can calculate the strength needed to cause the orbits of those other 2 stars.
Well, 1,000 light years is pretty close. It's the closest black hole that astronomers have discovered nearby to Earth. All right, well, let's keep going with our stories of the week. Once I mention the paypal.me/Spiral Media link, which is where I'm taking donations for the Trek Zone website fund, hopefully we can get a fresh coat of paint on the website. I'll do it in a couple of years' time, but if anyone's got any spare change, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm going to go find out what she's doing while you guys watch Dr. Brad Tucker and I discussing Tom Cruise heading to the space station.
Talking Science, stories of the week.
Alrighty, Brad, let's move on to our next story of the week. I love this one, and a mate of mine just sent a tweet out that he asked Google Home to play some morning music, and Danger Zone kicked off, which of course was a Tom Cruise movie. I never thought I would be able to talk about Tom Cruise on Talkin Science, but he...
No, look, that's right. He wants to enter a new danger zone. Good segue.
Hey.
The space zone. Look, it seems like it's in early stages, but it's been confirmed by NASA that SpaceX and Tom Cruise and NASA are in talks about shooting a movie in space on the space station, or at least partly on the space station.
I'm wondering whether Tom Cruise watched Interstellar and said, I could do that better.
Yeah, move over, McConaughey. I'm moving forward. I don't really know. It's quite interesting.
Nobody knows.
No, look, no one knows. A lot of people always talk about, Tom Cruise is famous for doing lots of his own stunts. It's actually probably not that dangerous. It depends on, obviously, what they get him to do. But, NASA, as we talked about, is open to now having private people go to the space station, as we talked about last year when they announced it. A big change from them being very anti-private people. And SpaceX is already talking about their first launch of private people 2021, maybe 2022, after the Demo 2 test. It all works later this month. So look, it's not that far-fetched. It's completely doable. Yeah, in the realms of, I think, exciting, and it could be interesting. Obviously the devil's in the detail and whether it actually happens or not, and what the plot is instead of just Tom Cruise in space. I don't think that can be the theme of the movie, but maybe it could. I don't know.
Just because.
So, maybe it's Topper Gun. Maybe it's Space Force Top Gun. Who knows? Lots of different ways to take this.
Top Gun Space Force. There's the title.
I think we've just made the plot of the movie here. Look, I wonder if this was more like an idea and then said, hey, that's not a crazy idea. And then they would think more about the story, movie, plot. Look, again, hard to say. But, to put this into scale, we talked about this last year when India launched the moon. That mission only cost around $100 million. Whereas the movie Gravity cost $120 million. So it's actually probably just cheaper to do it in space than just make a movie about space on the ground. So look, it's silly, but it's not that far-fetched.
I really wonder whether the production meeting was Tom Cruise sitting there going, we should do it in space. And everyone's like, hey, Tom, that's a great idea. You go find out, see if it's possible. And everyone's like, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. SpaceX goes, yeah, sure, let's do that. Okay. And then NASA goes, yeah, we'd love that. We love the publicity. And everyone's going, oh, shit, now we got to make the movie.
Yeah, we got to make a movie in space. Yeah. I generally feel that some extent of that probably had to happen, as all great ideas happen. But look, again, it's not out of the realm of possibility. And I was wondering this, is it something like when Top Gun happened, right? It was very popular for the U.S. Navy, and, there's lots of statistics of how it rose to recruitment and popularization and that sort of thing. And they got fully behind it. And NASA, as we know, is very good about emphasizing communication about what they do and their science. And so maybe this is a way of reaching a new audience. I don't think it's that terrible of an idea, to be honest. If you're trying to reach the people who may not watch the documentary about space travel, but who may watch Tom Cruise as space travel.
Do you think there's the logical next step for NASA now is to approve Talkin Science to go live from the space station? They'd have to fund it though. Yeah,
I think they would have to fund it. Yeah, look, I think there's a crawl before you can walk type thing. Let's say that. I do my own stunts, however, so maybe that's all you need.
And this is the thing with Tom as well, that he's really bringing that sense of special effects back. Like all the Avengers movies and stuff like that, they're fantastic, but we know, and all of these action films as well, we know that most of that is green screen, stunt doubles, done in the safety of a studio with plenty of airbags and stuff like that. Tom takes it to the next level and actually flies a chopper, or he actually flies God knows, jumps out of aircraft. They didn't let him fly the aircraft for the new Top Gun, but he was pretty close to it. I think he was in the back seat or something.
Yeah, as I said, you're right. He definitely goes to the extreme a bit. So this isn't just another generic movie where they would use 5 minutes of it in space. And look, and if you're wondering what you need to do, so you can do things on Earth that simulate space, right? There's the NASA parabolic flights, what they call the vomit comet, where you go, straight up and then essentially straight down to get weightlessness. And they have shot a music video on that before.
Nice.
OK Go.
Oh, that's right.
A popular band. Did it. It's really cool. My wife likes to talk about it because of all the takes they had to do. because of how you get sick. That's why they call it the vomit comet. But you also only have periods of 20 to 30 minutes or 20 to 30 seconds. It's not like you can do it for an entire scene. So there's just a lot of that where there's ways of simulating it, but it's not quite the same thing.
Alrighty, Brad. We will wait and see what Tom is going to do with that one. Tom and his team. I reckon there's going to be at least a director, a camera operator, possibly a lighting guy, and Tom himself. Depending what the scene is, there could be other actors as well. For all we know, they might need Starship to take them up with its 100-person capacity.
Yeah, look, I mean, in order to get a whole crew up there, I don't know how that's doable. So, look, again, I think the devil's going to be in the detail here because, I mean, the space station can only fit really 8. It could fit some more, and maybe they don't need to do it on the space station. Maybe they just want to do it in space. I don't know. But yeah, again, lots of detail here to work out. It will be interesting to see what happens with it. That's all I think I'm at this point.
One last thought that just came into my mind. When Armageddon filmed on the Mir space station, don't tell me it didn't happen because it really did. They blew it up. So
that's right. Yes.
Maybe NASA are a bit concerned, maybe.
That's right. Yeah, that's true. Mir did go bang in a pretty horrible way. So maybe they don't want their $50 billion space station to explode.
$150?
Yeah, it's cheap. Discounted rate. Tom Cruise rate.
Well, he is an absolute madman, but God, we love him on screen. He's bringing back the sense of realism and edge of your seat thrill ride. Hopefully the cinemas will be opening by the time the movie comes out. Well, it'll be a couple of years' time. Looking forward to that one. Let's keep going. Oh, she's there. I was gesturing for her to come in. But what?
It's my birthday.
Well, we can't hear you because the microphone's over here. Live.
It's my birthday.
No, it's Saturday.
It was my birthday.
That's Kelly. Yeah. She's the other supervising producer that sleeps while we do all of this stuff. Let's just roll the next clip.
Talking Science, Stories of the Week.
Alrighty, our last story of the week, and I mean that was the high point there. Tom Cruise at the space station. It's going to be epic, whatever happens. But something also epic from a scientific standpoint. Another country has had a successful launch of a heavy rocket that's going to be getting humans and equipment into orbit and beyond. China's Long March 5B rocket.
That's right. We highlighted this the other week or last week when it was getting ready to be launched and rolling out to the launch pad. And it did. Long 5B is their big rocket, the one that they need to take both humans and human capsules and stuff like that, and also the parts of their space station up. And, it's good to see it. We've talked about India's ambitions and other ambitions. This is a big step in the right direction to be an independent big space player. Not just for launching satellites, but humans and that sort of thing.
And the next step for China is their own space station. They're going to be putting one up, presumably with these new rockets, and crewing it as well. So they're sort of running in parallel with NASA and ESA.
Yeah, look, I kind of view them as being 20 years ago in terms of ambitions with the U.S. and Russia, and not in a negative way. The U.S. and Russia wanted to set up their own thing first. And U.S. built Skylab, Russia built Mir, as we just talked about. They want to build their own launch vehicle, their own rocket, their own space station. And it's not that they're trying to not collaborate. They are collaborating in lots of ways. But they want to be fully independent in a way that the other large space powers have, and in order to grow this. And maybe this means then that if they can establish this, that they get a bigger share in the space station if they want, when it's renewed in 2028, or looking towards more activity involvement with the moon, for instance. And it's also about building expertise in-house, right? It's about that expertise and of skill sets and engineers and scientists and not only know how to do it, but can do it.
China is no slouch when it's coming to their space program. They successfully landed a rover on the far side of the moon, the first country to do that ever. And they're really the rate of progression with China is probably on par with the US and Russia during the Cold War, I guess.
Yeah, it really is like that period a number of decades ago where they're pumping lots of money and resources in, and you're seeing what happens, just like what the US and Russia did. And it's not that they're necessarily playing catch up or trying to compete. That's just how you grow a space program. It's the same thing with SpaceX, right? They started small, then were able to get money and pumping lots of projects and people and developing it. And same with Blue Origin and the private companies. That's how you grow. They want to be ambitious. And I think the more countries involved in space and the more activity happening, the better, because people can touch on and do different things, like, as you said, landing on the far side of the moon, which is still a dramatically huge, impressive achievement.
Absolutely fantastic. We'll watch this space with China. The next steps for them are still to come. It might be a few weeks or a couple of months before we learn what their next phase is, but I think it's going to be getting equipment up to start with, and then starting to get that crewed and get that space station built.
Yeah, look, they know they need to get up their space station in a few parts, and they want to get crew and people up as well. And we've talked about India doing kind of a similar parallel. There's a little bit of a not a competition, but another race going on between another wave of big spacefaring nations. So it's an exciting area to watch.
Well, from a purely scientific standpoint, it is absolutely fantastic that more countries are developing long-range rockets to get humans and equipment into orbit and beyond. And China's Long March 5B is going to do just that for their astronauts and their space station, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. All right, well, it is time to wrap up this Trek Zone live stream for another Saturday. It's been real. Don't forget paypal.me/Spiral Media if you want to contribute to the Trek Zone website development fund. Sounds better when you say it like that. I'll get around to it in a couple of years' time, but if anyone's got any spare cash to support Trek Zone, Australia's first Star Trek fan site, and the unofficial home of Star Trek, and all those other taglines I've used over the years, it'd be absolutely fantastic. We'll be doing more podcasts like this. We are podcasting 5 days a week, and we'll be back on Tuesday with another round of Talkin Science. For now, though, I'm Matt Miller. Thanks for watching this live stream, and we'll see you again soon.